Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. Mad Mike here, and today we're going to be discussing something that it's been a growing trend in Hollywood for a number of years now. But I recently saw a story that stated that they were going to do a female reboot of the Rush Hour series, the film starring Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. There are three of them. I believe the first one was '98, the second one was 2001, and the third one was in 2007. And all of which were financially successful. And regardless of that, they are trying to do a female centric reboot of the series, and that's what it's being touted as. And I thought this was a good opportunity to kind of discuss what is wrong with these recent female-centric reboots that have been going on, and why, sort of kind of exploring the idea of demographics and why that exists, and why certain franchises do not do well when you go against the demographic. And let's first go over the Rush Hour situation. Now, Rush Hour, the whole series is it's a buddy cop series that's built heavily on action and comedy, and of course it stars Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan. Now, I'm a fan of the first two films. I think they were one of the first films I had on DVD when I was younger, and I have not, unfortunately, I have not seen the third one, but I do love the first two, especially the second one. The second one is amazing. But here's the thing: is that I don't think that this reboot is going to do well for the same reason that I think a lot of female-centric reboots don't do well, and that's the idea that you can slap it's almost that you can slap a sticker on an older franchise that's mainly built around a male demographic and simply say, oh, well, everybody that liked the old ones will like these ones, and now we can also get women in on it too. That's not how that normally works. And I'm going to go over some key examples, and some of them are going to be kind of obvious, but look, most of these movies turn out to be financial disasters, and you can look no further than films like 2016 Ghostbusters, Ocean's 8, things like that. And it doesn't matter how much star power you pump into these movies, because you can look at Ghostbusters 2016. You have Melissa McCarthy, you have Kristen Wiig, and you have Leslie Jones, and I forget who the fourth one was. And then you also had Chris Hemsworth, and you had basically a comedy goldmine for stars of that, and you basically kind of put together the two standouts from the movie Bridesmaids. And I will get to Bridesmaids a little later, because that is the one exception that I know of. But before I get to that, let's just discuss Ghostbusters. And Ghostbusters was a victim of many things, but the problem with all of these female-centric movies is it is Hollywood, again, pushing this progressive feminist view, and instead of simply making original franchises, which is what they should be doing, they're taking older franchises that were mainly aimed at men or at a mixed demographic, and pointing them instead directly at women, and alienating the people that are really the ones that keep the brand alive. And like I said, Ghostbusters is a prime example, where in the 80s, Ghostbusters as a brand, because you had the two movies, you had the animated television show, and then you also had all the merchandising and everything else that was associated with it. And even later on, you had the video games and comic books and everything like that. But it was all mainly aimed at the films are really more of a mixed demographic, but again, most of the promotional material is mainly aimed at boys. It's mainly aimed there. It's not necessarily aimed at girls, and that's not saying that girls don't like it, but at the same time, you can't sit there and say a G.I. Joe is aimed at the same person that a Barbie doll is. And I know that's kind of a very stark, contrasting example, but Ghostbusters is, I think, more primarily aimed at a male demographic. young male demographic, more or less, when it was coming out in the 80s. And that demographic is what supported it into the 90s and 2000s with the video games and then whatever else. And then they decided, instead of doing a Ghostbusters 3, which had been in development for years and years and years, and had been shot down numerous times, they instead chose to do a full reboot with a female cast and not related in any way, shape, or form back to the original team of Ghostbusters or to the original franchise. It was a complete new thing. And again, here is the problem when you do that, is the idea that you are taking something that is mainly built for men, and this is, if people want to say it's sexist, you can say it's sexist. Demographics exist. They have always existed. No matter what film has come out, there has always been a demographic for that film. It might be a wide demographic, but there is a demographic. And for those people that don't know what a demographic is, it's basically when you have a product, any kind of a product that you are selling, there is a certain group of people that you are kind of aiming at as your main consumer. And those people are the ones that you really, really want to aim at and to buy your product. Now, if other people buy the product as well, that's even better. But you want that group to buy your product. It's the same idea like, okay, diapers. Babies' diapers. Obviously that product is aimed mainly at, people that have young children. That's what that product is aimed at. You don't see diapers that come out that have like metal spikes or something on them. It's not aimed at like metal heads and stuff like that for the most part. It's a product that's aimed at a specific thing, and you can say adult diapers or whatever, but the idea is still there. And it's even more so in entertainment, where a lot of stuff is aimed generally at a certain demographic, and a lot of times a certain aged demographic, not just gendered, where you have films that are made that are aimed more towards older people, like you have The Bucket List, which is a comedy with two older actors. It's Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. And that movie is aimed more at an older demographic of people because the two main actors are older, and the comedy between them is kind of old people comedy. That's what it's supposed to be aimed at. It's not aimed, a 17-year-old looking to take a date out isn't going to take a date out to see The Bucket List. They're not going to go to that movie. They're going to go to a date night movie. And again, you have an entirely another demographic there. But Ghostbusters is not generally aimed at women, or it hasn't until recently. And an even bigger example of this is Star Wars. And I could harp on Star Wars for probably an hour if I really wanted to, but Star Wars is had the same problem now, where it's not so much that you have made it female centric. It's the problem that you have not given any strong male characters, and any strong male characters that you did have either been killed off or castrated, as per Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. And then the other younger male characters have not basically stepped up to the plate, so to speak. You have Poe Dameron, who, he hasn't really done much. He had a cyclical plotline in The Last Jedi, and Force Awakens he did a few things, but I think his screen time in that movie was 20 minutes, maybe. Probably less than that. And then you have Finn, who's just a bumbling idiot for the duration of 2 movies. And then when he's about to do something actually heroic, a woman knocks him out of the way and gives him some BS insane line about what he was going to do. But again, this is the same idea that Star Wars it has a demographic. It's always had a demographic, and the demographic is mainly males. And that's not saying that women don't like Star Wars. But the demographic that is being aimed at is mainly at males, from boys all the way up to grown men. That is what it is aimed at. And now you have alienated your prime demographic, your demographic that has been supporting your franchise through some pretty hard times in some cases for the better part of 35 years. Actually, no, it's longer than that. It'll be about 45, almost 50 years now. Or Yeah, no, actually, it would be 50 years since the original film came out. Um, or actually, no, sorry, I'm a complete idiot. It's 40 years, but the point still stands. The point stands that you have a demographic, and you need to cater to that demographic to some extent. You can't alienate them, because the problem is, if you alienate them, the demographic that you're going after is not built in for that franchise. It is not built in for that particular audience, and you are going to lose money. And we have seen this multiple times. Ghostbusters 2016 was a financial disaster. Ocean's 8 did not make as much as the first film, and the first film came out in, I believe it was 2002. But that again is the problem, is that you are making a movie that is aimed at a male demographic, and you are changing it up for women, and you are alienating the men. Now, for Hollywood, their ideology is that basically all white men are bad. But in a lot of cases, especially with the more feminist ones, it's all men are bad. Period. There are no good men unless they are subservient. And this is, they're combating the idea of the 80s action movie, the movies that are built around male testosterone, toxic masculinity is the term they like to use. But those movies were financially successful. They had a demographic. They catered to that demographic, and they catered to it very, very well. And that's why those movies did very, very well. And a lot of them were very well written and somewhat well acted. I'm not going to say that Arnold Schwarzenegger should be off doing Shakespeare, but it's not necessarily. He doesn't do a terrible job in some movies. Sylvester Stallone is an Academy Award-winning director. I forget if he won for acting in Rocky, or if it was. I know he won for screenplay, I think, but. Regardless of any of that, that is the problem. And I know I've said this multiple times, but you have so many examples now of Hollywood trying to do this and dumping money into a franchise that is meant for men in order to change it over and make it for women. And it doesn't work. It never has worked. It never will work. And I will go over the one exception that everybody cites, and that is Bridesmaids. And everybody says Bridesmaids it's a female centric version of The Hangover. That is not true. It is true in the sense that it is about a bachelorette party, or it's about a bachelorette weekend party, whatever you want to call it. And the other thing is that Bridesmaids did not tread on the same ground as The Hangover, in the sense that they did the same jokes. It wasn't the same premise for a film. The only thing, you had Bridesmaids with, you had Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig. Again, they did appear in Ghostbusters 2016, but there were a lot of differentiating circumstances. And Bridesmaids was not necessarily aimed at the same crowd that was attracted to The Hangover. And here's what I'm trying to say here, is that even though they have similar premises, Bridesmaids was not marketed as a female hangover. It was not. It was marketed as its own thing. It was marketed as Bridesmaids. It was female-centric comedy. It was a comedy directed at women, and it did not try to steal things from The Hangover, other than the fact that it was made with the idea of, instead of a bachelor party, it was a bachelorette party. That is really the key here. And this is also, the film came out in 2011 when The Hangover 2 came out. So it wasn't even a reboot, They're coming out at the same time. You have two different movies aimed at two different demographics that are coming out at the same time. It's not like they're using the same damn jokes, but at the same time, but that's the reason why that film worked. It worked because you were aiming at a different demographic, and you were not trying to ape off another film. You did have a bit of a similar premise, but it wasn't marketing itself as a female hangover. It was marketing itself as its own thing. So that's why these female-centric reboots have failed, or these franchises that are injecting more and more females and degenerating the males down into non-existence. You are destroying your base. It does not take a genius to see that. But apparently, the people in Hollywood don't care if they hemorrhage money like somebody who just got stabbed in the throat. And it boggles my mind that they keep greenlighting these things, because none of them, aside from Bridesmaids, again, and I don't even consider that to be a female-centric, aping off of the Hangover or anything like that. That's the only one that made money. All these other ones have lost money, and some of them have lost a lot of money, like Ghostbusters 2016. Again, so Hollywood, learn from your mistakes. Stop doing this. If you want to make female-centered franchises, then make them. Make them original. Cast people in them, and don't try to attach it to a franchise that does not aim at that demographic, because it does not work. It hasn't worked in the last 5 years, and it will not work in the next 5 years or in the next 50 years unless you do an original franchise that does not ape off of an already existing one. So now that rant is over, thank you for watching. Hit the like button. Leave any of your thoughts in the comments. If you think that maybe this could be a good thing or not. It's your opinion. Hit the bell for notifications. Subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?